Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Success Navigator, a SHRPA Research 2024 Leadership Interview Series by People Matters. It's a series where we dive further into the findings of the Asia Pacific and Middle East largest HR industry research and talk to top talent and technology providers leaders to provide you actionable insights and strategies of the HR industry. I am Cheshta and leading research content and community at People Matters. And for our conversation today, we have with us Radhika Punshi, partner at the Mercer Talent Enterprise, which is headquartered in Dubai. Welcome, Radhika, to our interview series. So good to have you.
Hi, Chesta. Good morning. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for making time for this conversation today. And as you all know, the theme and the topic of the conversation that we have today is super interesting. It's on the evolving role of HR technology and services partners in the HR industry. So without further ado, I would like to dive deep into the first question I have for you, Radhika. As you see, with the diversifying, buyer metrics and the decision makers we have in the industry for HR technology and CXOs playing a key role in the investment decisions, HR technology and service partners we've seen have to understand and address the unique requirements of both HR and business leaders, and especially with the tailored solutions that we have today. So, how do you see this shift specifically playing out across the Middle East, and how are you at the Mercer Talent Enterprise improving the decision-making experience for our technology buyers?
Great, Cheshta. Thanks for that. And I think the answer lies a bit in your question itself, because I think clients, whether it's CXOs, whether it's the HR community, they are looking for technology that helps them make decisions, right? So a few years ago, I've been working in the region for a long time, about 20 years now. And till about 5, 6 years ago, the idea was to go for the shiniest toy, something that was new, something that was different. I think the three things that really summarize what this year and next year is looking like in terms of technology decisions. One is simplicity. I think a lot of clients are looking for technology that's simple in terms of implementation, in terms of the insights it provides. It's straightforward, it's not complex. I think that's one. A lot of clients have been burnt by using a lot of technology that's taken a long time to implement and then hasn't always reaped the benefits in one way. I think the second keyword is integrated. So I think clients are looking for technology that's much more open, much more flexible, and much more integrated. So there's much more of a clear sort of workflow around data. So not having data sit in different platforms, but having something that really kind of weaves data together from different platforms and different areas. I think the integration of data and workflows, I think, is a really important one for a buyer. And I think the third thing we're starting to see, especially in the UAE and Saudi and also in other markets in Asia like China, is obviously aspects around data privacy, data security, and localization. So making sure that data is hosted in the UAE, data is hosted in Saudi Arabia, because there is a lot of more increasing sort of regulation around where the data sits, what happens with the data as well. So we're starting to see that become a very, very important criteria from decision makers and buyers. But yeah, I would really say whatever helps leaders make better decisions using technology, but something that's simple, something that's integrated, and something that also keeps in mind sort of the changing regulatory landscape in certain geographies and jurisdictions.
True, right. And I think you've kind of hit the right note here, Radhika. The points that you've mentioned about simple and ease of use of the technology for our end users, for our employees, for our managers, then compatibility and integration across all the technology. That's something that's the key evaluation priority that has also come out for our HR leaders, HR and business leaders, in fact, all the buyers that we have for technology partners in our research as well. So I think that kind of validates what we have been hearing as well. In terms of when we see leadership development emerge as a key area of focus for HR leaders, so looking at all the changes that you've been seeing that are in store for the coming year, what aspects of leadership development here do you think are really essential? And how are you planning to meet these demands through your insights and solutions that you have at Mercer Talent Enterprise?
Sure, Jason. I think we could spend hours and days talking about this, but I'll try and summarize at least some insights in a few minutes. I think the first thing with leaders is, and we've been working with leaders at Mercer Talent Enterprise across the world for 15 years, and there is a huge shift and almost a reset in terms of what we're expecting leaders to do. I think being a leader today is not easy. There's a lot of different kind of shifts and priorities that leaders have to navigate. And what we really find is leaders are not only leading in what we call complicated situations, but highly complex situations. And that really needs a very, very different way of thinking and a very different mindset. So at Mercer Talent Enterprise, we've recently released some research around how leaders are now expected to work across. And it's not new research, but I think it's really relevant today about how leaders need to lead through paradoxes. So they really need to be able to do multiple things, conflicting things, complex things at the same time. So, earlier you'd have the conventional wisdom that leaders either need to be very task focused or people focused, right?
Yeah.
Need to direct and lead, or they need to manage people. Now it's not a question of or, it's actually a question of and. So you need to be strategic and focused on execution at the same time. You need to be managing risk and be super creative at the same time. You need to be making tough business decisions and think of the impact on people and shareholders at the same time. So
Right.
this paradoxical thinking where leaders are expected to do everything at the same time and be good at both aspects is quite different, and it almost needs a reset around how we think of leaders and what we expect from leaders. Our research, which we just published in a white paper, shows that only about 18 to 20% of leaders are actually able to do this at the moment, which is to manage these paradoxes. And there's also a huge risk we're facing with leaders at the moment. There's obviously a lot more uncertainty in the world, whether it's sort of geopolitical, whether it's economic, whether it's social, whether it's business uncertainty as well. And we do find leaders are, we recently, Mercer released the Global Talent Trends research in 2024. And what we found is about 30% of leaders are currently thinking of leaving or exiting their organizations in the next 18 months. And another 20% of leaders are expecting for their roles or jobs to change or be made redundant. So we actually have about 50% of flux in the leadership community, which means there'll probably be a lot more sort of movement, whether it's attrition, whether it's sort of exits, whether it's a restructure that happens in organizations. So we also need to really identify future leaders who can come in and take on these roles. And we're also feeling and seeing that leaders are also continuing to be extremely burnt out. So their well-being is definitely an issue. Um, they are feeling this sense of being overwhelmed, feeling burnt out, feeling a sense of exhaustion. So whether it's sort of looking at the external market demands and geopolitical situation, whether it's looking at sort of what challenges they're going to face and the flux we're going to face, and whether it's aspects around their mental health and well-being, I think it's a really, really pivotal time to focus on leaders in general. So I hope that answers a little bit of what we're starting to see with CXO and sort of the leaders a couple of levels below them as well.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think, like you mentioned, the paradox between the two areas of expertise that leaders need to develop, that's not a matter of or as of now. It's both. They have to be hand in hand. And when it comes to employee development and along with that, manager and leadership development as well, one of the things that we observed in our research is also around the change readiness and change execution effectiveness of the whole organization, including leaders. So we saw that while HR and business leaders, change readiness is absolutely bang on, they are acing it. And they have built an organization which is also change ready. The effectiveness scores are great. But when it comes to change execution, when it comes to really executing on those change efforts, which also most of them require technology, they are lagging there. So that also brings us to the point that employees, leaders, and including HR leaders and HR teams need to develop themselves on the functional expertise, including technological skills and digital mindset, digital readiness to be ready to execute on those changes. And so we've also seen that imperative for HR leaders across APAC and Middle East is that they should be able to execute for that change at pace at which technology is changing. So looking at these disruptions, how should HR leaders, according to you, improve their execution effectiveness? And what role do you see companies like Mercer Talent Enterprise play in enabling HR better at delivering that business expectation?
Sure. I mean, I think there's so many different themes and threads to this question. I think there has been a lot of change. There will continue to be a lot of change. I think change is probably like, the only constant there is. I think from a change perspective, just 2 points to make between before I kind of maybe make some recommendations, or at least what we see. I think one is there is this increased sense of change fatigue and digital fatigue. So post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, there was a lot of change, a lot of flux. Post-pandemic, there's been a lot more change, lot more transformation. So whether it's within the HR leader community or whether it's within employees themselves, I think there is this increased sense of a sense of change fatigue and digital fatigue, which impacts execution and sort of that openness to then really kind of make the change happen, because employees sometimes also feel we'll do this now, but in the next 12 months there'll be something new that we'll have to then
Yeah.
learn or unlearn. And the other thing is we are starting to see a lot of, whether it's the HR community, whether it's leaders, whether it's employees, they also have to do a lot more with less. So I think that's another thing that's really impacting the mindset and sort of the readiness of people. I think from Mercer's perspective, from Mercer Talent Enterprises perspective, the biggest sort of focus around whether you want to be ready for sort of the new digital technologies or technology innovation in general is obviously a skill-based approach, which Mercer's really been leading the charge around helping organizations really transform into skills-based organizations. I genuinely feel that's the future, because you have to have things that are much more agile. You need to have the workplace redesigned around skills, around things that are much more have that sense of agility, that sense of flexibility. So if employees are able to look at the things they're good at, the skills that they can actually really focus on, and really start to improve in those skills, and then there are a lot more opportunities from a workplace perspective, whether it's taking up more gig roles, whether it's actually transforming the organization to have much more vertical and horizontal boundaries as well. I think that really goes a long way. So I think where we're seeing organizations really have that sense of agility is when they're on that skills journey, where they're really identifying the skills for the future, they're identifying where employees are today, where the gaps are, and then how they can really help upskill, reskill, and also hire for those skills, but also develop for those skills as well. So instead of sort of mass redundancies or people not having sort of the skills required for the job, you're actually developing it more proactively. So you are thinking 3-4 years ahead of the time.
Right.
And I think that starts with awareness, right? That starts with identifying, and that then starts with employees being aware of the skills they have today and the skills they need for the future.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's great to see that Middle East is also going towards skill-based organizations. Skills definitely are the new growth currency, I feel. And it's becoming increasingly important to, experiment with different methods and technologies to make upskilling and reskilling more experiential, more engaging for our employees. And for that to happen, as you mentioned, not just business leaders, HR leaders, they all need to be really hands-on with the approach. They all need to get their hands dirty to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and be digitally ready themselves as well in order to implement it in the most optimal manner. Zooming out a bit from this theme, Radhika, and moving to the technology investment standpoint here, People Matters Sherpa report also notes that HR is planning to either retain the investments or reduce in HR tech solutions, like attracting the right talent and enhance and kind of increasing those in enhancing HR's effectiveness through AI and advanced analytics. So, what barriers do you really see, forcing HR to reprioritize their investments in these areas or any other areas that you may have noticed specifically in Middle East? And how do you think HR tech partners can really improve HR leaders' broken analytics journey through their platforms and advisory solutions?
Sure. I mean, again, multiple themes to that answer. I think the first is that buyers, at least in the Middle East, are willing to continue to invest. I think in technology, I think they're being a lot more mindful about where their dollars or dirhams or reals are being spent around that. I think anything that is impacting performance or productivity using AI is, I think buyers in the Middle East are probably more open to it than we see in many, many other countries. I think we always find buyers in the Middle East are much more innovative, much more open to trying new things because they don't have huge legacy systems that have been in place for 50, 60 years, right? So they're actually a lot more open to looking at new technologies. And I think AI is still sort of obviously in its infancy, but it's got a very long way to go. But I think anything that impacts things around productivity, performance, buyers are looking for. I think on the flip side, like you're saying, around talent acquisition, we are seeing a big, there is concerns around integrity of using online platforms for recruitment, for example. So Mercer Talent Enterprise primarily is an assessment company. We do a lot of work around talent assessment, whether it's sort of in the talent acquisition space or in the talent development, succession, leadership space. And we are seeing a big focus this year, at least, on back to in-person assessment. So last couple of years, there was a lot of focus on using technology and video interviewing and proctoring to be able to deliver assessments at scale in hiring. This year, we're back to doing a lot more in-person sort of assessments, getting people coming in, because I think leaders are concerned, especially when it's high-stake decisions, whether it's hiring, whether it's on things like succession, around the integrity of tests in general using AI. So I think that's a change. So maybe less of that sort of online focus on talent acquisition. On the other hand, when it's coming to things around talent development, performance skills, productivity, I think there is an increased sense of using AI and technology in those areas. And especially, Chesta, like you said, right? And I said this at the beginning of the interview. I think anything that helps leaders make better people decisions. So data that's backed by insights, data that's backed by, here's this leader, here's what they're good at, here are the opportunities you can offer. I think there is still a hugely open mindset to invest in those technologies. I think the analytics end up being broken because they're not integrated. Because unfortunately, a lot of organizations have their people data staying, in different places. So you'll have your ERP systems, you'll have your ETS systems, you'll have your LXP, LMS systems, you might have a talent assessment platform, and they don't speak to each other. So hence, you're not able to really get a sense of that whole sort of employee journey or employee because your data is lying in different places. I think the
Yeah.
future really is, to have that aggregation. So either you have aggregators come in who are able to add that layer of talent analytics on top, or have these platforms be a lot more open. And where we've seen a lot of progress with our system, our platform is called Lighthouse, and Lighthouse really adds that layer of data analytics that sits on top of other systems. So you're able to then look at a whole person, their profile, etc., in a lot more detail. And I really think that's what clients appreciate. They don't want to end up having, their people data stay on these many, many different systems and not tell the whole story.
Right, right. I think you've really helped us diagnose into this challenge and into this actually tech investment shift where we are seeing where investments are getting low, where the investments are retained at the pace they are, at the pace HR leaders are trying to make, and where they are actually increasing. And definitely, the broken analytics journey, as you said, leading to disintegrated HR dashboard and platforms like which provide either end-to-end talent analytics, people analytics journey, or adding a layer of analytics are really going to be the game changer here to bring everything together and unify the data sources. That's becoming the big problem, as we say, garbage in, garbage out situation that organizations have been feeling now with having different multiple solutions into place. What they're trying to do is unifying those, so using a more integrated approach, and they are also trying to figure out how they can unify the data sources as well. um, So that's going to be definitely something that's improve the end-to-end analytics journey. And great to know that both the regions that we have, APAC and Middle East, are in that direction. And or have the first step is actually to identifying the problem and then working on it. So we are there. Perfect. Moving on to our next question, and probably the last question for our conversation, Radhika, is on the innovation. So, as we see, it's really central to HR, technology, and services companies to create the necessary impact. And we are also seeing the innovative features that these organizations are coming up with are mostly in alignment with what HR leaders require today. So that perception match, that alignment is great. But we want to understand from you that what are some of the innovations that Mercer Talent Enterprise specifically has in store for the coming year, and how are you driving that compelling narrative for adoption and helping leaders realize that return on investment on the technology that they are looking for?
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting question. And I think the space we're in, so we've been in the talent assessment space for a long time. I've been living and breathing talent assessments for the last 20 years. And there's a lot of disruption and innovation specifically in our industry. There's obviously been a lot of buying and selling of assessment companies. We recently got acquired by Mercer as well, which really means that there is a lot of exciting things coming our way. So I think from our perspective, from a talent assessment lens, we actually have probably with the Lighthouse platform one of the most innovative technologies out there already. The platform, like I said, does multiple things. It really integrates these data and talent analytics journeys across people. So you actually get some of the deepest people insights, whether it's using sort of our assessment tools or our analytics tools as well. We also host other platforms and other assessments on our platform. So a buyer is no longer restricted to just using a certain set of tools. They actually have a much more broader set of solutions. I think in terms of innovation, some of the work we've been working with, even with Mercer in the last 6 months, is really around how do you really build skill assessments, because although a lot of organizations are really focusing on skills and identifying skills, where they're really struggling still is how do you then know that those skills can be verified or validated, especially if you're using it for things like pay decisions or job decisions or role decisions. So some of the work we've been doing recently is really around creating a tiered skill assessment approach. So right from what we call, inferred skills, the skills that can come from different data systems, to rated skills where managers and employees can really start to rate where they are on skills. And the third layer is how do you really validate that these skills are actually there at the moment, or they've improved with development interventions. A lot of our innovation is really in the skills space. Mercer has their own skills taxonomy called Skills Edge. So we're doing a lot of work linking Skills Edge with some of the assessment experiences we have. And the other place where we're starting to use AI, because in the assessment space, we're really careful about not using AI as much because we don't feel it's really got that sort of rigor and objectivity that it needs at the moment. But where we are really using it is around development planning. So we feel this, once the assessments are done, the process of how IDPs or development plans are identified are still very outdated. Manager sits down with an employee twice a year and says, "Okay, tell me what we're going to do," and it seems like an HR tick in the box sort of process. So what we're really doing is on our platform, creating a much more digital and virtual IDP journey, where based on the skill gaps, using AI, managers and employees are able to identify development goals a lot more objectively, a lot more faster, and also use AI to then suggest, development areas where they're really stuck for ideas as well. So I think there's a lot more innovation to come, but it really is around addressing business challenges or people challenges that organizations are facing, and also just making the whole process a lot more seamless and really, really immersive in the experience of taking assessments as well.
Great, great. We're really looking forward to some of these solutions taking shape, and organizations using that transformative technology in the talent assessments and other solutions that you've mentioned. I think I feel very excited about it personally. One last question, Radhika, and that's my favorite question. What is that one short, crisp advice you would give to HR tech partners looking to really understand and align with HR leaders' priorities for technology solutions and understanding their utilization challenges, better to evolve and align their solution strategy for the coming 12 to 18 months?
I mean, honestly, I think the simplest thing is simplicity. Like I said, I think we actually have a problem of plenty. There's too much out there in technology and sort of HR. And I think, with buyers, they just need something. And I really say it's back to basics, right? I think if we can, as technology providers and partners, really help our clients go back to basics, really build strong foundations of whatever technology they want to use, whether it's on talent or learning or HR in general, really help them build that layer where they're actually having sort of the basic data in a very, very unified way and then build on top of that. So I think I would really say it's back to basics before things get a lot more complex. I think not offering too much, but really addressing what challenges clients have versus trying to sell features and functionalities. We all do that, but that's not what clients want. And I think the third thing is being authentic and genuine with them about,
Yeah.
the challenges they have and the problems they have, and helping them make business decisions. It's not an easy time to be in HR. It's not an easy time to be a business leader. And our job is really to partner with them on that journey. And I keep saying, from a organization business perspective, I keep saying it's right now, it's like the best of times and the worst of times, right? There's so
Yeah.
much possibility around innovation, around technology. But the worst of times, because of sort of the unprecedented challenges we are facing as organizations, we are facing in society, we're facing with the economy in general. So I think it really, the more we can help clients navigate this time, but be authentic, be genuine, and really try and solve problems for them versus selling features and functionalities, I think that's what really serves everyone in the long term.
Yes, yes, I agree. Absolutely true, Radhika. And I think, like you said, um, the role of HR leaders and business leaders have become more and more difficult and complicated. So, in order to, really support them in not just selling the features, but also support them in solving the critical business challenges and talent challenges, the role of HR tech partners have evolved a lot to really build a compelling narrative to really drive the need of the for the based on the innovative solutions that the technology organizations are coming up with is definitely the need of the hour. So really looking forward to HR technology partners stepping up into this role and not just supporting but also really partnering with HR leaders in driving that impact. Thank you so much for these valuable insights, and especially for the Middle East region, Radhika. This has been really helpful. And to our listeners, I hope you found this conversation as insightful as I did. And if you haven't gotten a chance to access our Sherpa research report yet, please use the link in the comments to download the report. And stay tuned as we bring you more insightful discussions and conversations that provide you the strategies and equip you with insights and solutions for a successful business and HR impact in 2025. Thank you so much, Radhika, again for joining us for this insightful conversation today.
Thanks again, and I really enjoyed the research as well. So thanks for your time.
Perfect. Great.